Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Legislative Lens Spotlighting State Laws podcast. In this episode, we're actually going to go into great detail about Senate Bills 2 and 3, which was the result of the largest property tax cut in the history of Texas that just passed in the special session number 2 in the 88th legislative session of 2023. All right, so we're going to go into this a little bit. It's an $18 billion package that was passed in the special session number 2 by the legislature. As the saying goes, everything's bigger in Texas, and that includes the largest property tax cut in the nation, arguably. But let's get down into this. Senate Bill 2 and Senate Bill 3 was passed in the second legislative special session of the 88th legislative cycle. Okay, so what it does here, it kind of addresses a big focal point that the citizens of Texas needed a reprieve from these increases in property taxes that we were seeing, but we were also seeing it on the homesteading front as well. So, what this law insinuated and did is that it gave huge property tax decreases in across the entire state. It wasn't just specialized in certain parts of the state, but it was the across of the entire state. So under Senate Bill 2 and Senate Bill 3, $18 billion historical budget surplus was allotted towards driving down school district property tax rates, increasing homestead exemptions for Texas homeowners, and increasing franchise tax exemptions and appraisal caps for small businesses. So what you were seeing during the pandemic was a lot of these properties, let's say they're on maybe a 25-acre lot. Someone will be operating maybe a mechanic shop or some kind of business out of there. And they were seeing some increases in property tax as well as the evaluation of property as well. And so there is actually now appraisal caps when your housing market, your housing is appraised every year by the state or county or by city, excuse me. So this is a huge tax cut. Probably goes to about 5.7 million Texas homeowners. And the combination of reduction of property taxes and also the homestead exemptions is kind of a really big 1-2 punch. And so you're seeing a decrease in property taxes in this law between $1,250 to $1,450 every year on their homesteaded properties in those situations, but also seeing huge decreases across the board, regardless of municipality that the person lives in. So a really, really important thing here to take into this consideration. All right, so Senate Bill 2, co-sponsored were Betancourt and Meyer, provides property tax relief through tax rate compression, which means basically almost like a pause. And it's also an increase in the homestead exemption, which is the increase in exempted price, and a pilot program limiting the growth at appraised values. So for tax year 2023, this will save the average Texas homestead owner around $1,200. And Texas homestead owners over 65 or with a disability will see about a $1,400 savings. As well as Senate Bill 3 is Betancourt and also Guerin, who is a co-sponsor, also increases the franchise tax, the no tax due threshold to 2.47 million, and removes burdensome filing requirements for those who do not owe taxes. So that's where you're starting to see a lot of use of the surplus in a manner in which it helps the citizens of the state of Texas. And this is one of the few things that was actually called upon by Governor Greg Abbott during his State of the State address in 2023, and made cutting property taxes one of his key emergency line items they wanted to be accomplished in the 88th session. The 88th session, however, did not accomplish this perfectly by the end of the cycle, so they called in for a special session, and really it passed on party lines, really, and really by allowing this homestead exemption to do, let's talk about the bigger picture here. Small businesses are protected. in Senate Bill 3, as well as the Homestead Act in the Senate Bill 2. So senior homeowners will be protected instead of being priced out of their homes long term. So what you saw during the pandemic was we saw federally that the mortgage protections and things like that. Texas kind of took this to another point and said, okay, we knew the housing market is going to skyrocket, which it has done, but we need to do something about it. And we also need to keep people's, being able to pay their taxes on time and things along those lines. So it's a relief, but it also uses $18 billion of the surplus in this situation. And it's just a really key part of the puzzle when it comes to getting the job done for the citizens of Texas, because what you're seeing is some of these municipalities, let's say, I'll just use some examples of local places around here in DFW. You're seeing some of these larger school districts, and they're obviously the values of their homes are going up $100,000, $150,000. And the process to actually go through that appraisal dispute and how things go like that is very cumbersome, and it takes a long period of time. So with this, it says, okay, listen, we got to get our appraisal situation under control. And by doing that, also by trying to get it under control, let's give everybody a cut, because we paid a good chunk of taxes while during the COVID pandemic. And, I think overall it'll see a large helpful way for keeping, money inside the pockets of the residents of Texas and the citizens of Texas. So a key takeaway, though, is, does it accomplish everything that we need to accomplish? No. The state of Texas is a huge state, no matter the question or concern. But at some point, property taxes are used to fund schools. And depending on the school system that you live in, you do want that funding. So a reduction in the property taxes now will shortfall school systems across the board that have really taken a blunt, really a really big beating during the pandemic when it comes to funding, as well as academic, the STAR test scores and things like that. So I think as much as there was needed a reprieve during this situation for the citizens of Texas, I think the timing of this was probably, if you damned if you do and you damned if you don't type of situation. The one thing that really needed to get accomplished and solved was the pilot program for the growth in appraisal values. We need to do something along that line across state, the complete oversight on the statewide side, because some of these houses we're seeing huge swings, like $200,000+ in value. And of course, when you're not used to that value increase, and then you get a tax bill that's substantially higher than what you expected, it puts you into a really big burden. So I think overall, was this going to be a good situation for everyone involved? Sure. I think we'll be very interested to see how the outcome of this tax cut bill resides to the people and the citizens of Texas, other than just savings down the stream, because they will have to owe taxes every year like they do. And I think that's going to be a key issue going forward. In every situation, every year, every political news cycle, every election cycle, it's always about trying to save us some money and try to really work on that. So, Phil, everyone, I appreciate the listen as always. I hope we can talk about some more laws. We have a whole season to go through, so I appreciate the listen as always. So feel free to subscribe to this podcast and listen to it all different podcast networks and distribution teams, as well as feel free to follow us on X at Legislativelens, and as well as join me on YouTube. And feel free as well. We're going to be sending out a bunch of content here in the near future, and I hope everyone can actively get involved. Feel free to continue looking up your own research as well and stay active in this political news cycle and the political election cycle. Thank you.